Yo, what's up guys, my name is Mr. Freeze2244 and welcome to a sort of like first impressions of the game. I know it's been out for 2 or 3 weeks now, and I've just gotten to grips with all the maps and stuff like that, and a lot of people have been asking for my thoughts overall on the game. And so this is basically like a first impressions or a review, if you like. But I'm not going to go through any script. I've got some bullet points here that I want to go through, and it's going to appear really negative, but I just want to put this out there that I really do enjoy playing the game. I play it every day for several hours a day, and I'm always making content on it. I'm making more content now than I used to on Hitman 2. I got burnt out on Hitman 2 quite quickly. So Hitman 3 is a very enjoyable game that I really do like playing. So I just want to get that out there before I actually start, because it's going to sound more negative than I actually perceiving, but I just can't help but highlight some of these problems. So the first thing I want to start off with saying something positive is the map design. And there's 5 maps overall in the game. Well, you can say 6 if you like, but it depends on how you look at the last mission. But yeah, 5 maps overall I'm going to say. And I really do like the design of them, because the problem I had a lot with Hitman 2 is they had very big maps. And we always had a problem with having targets on the opposite ends of the map. And that was always one of my complaints about the game. And that's one of the reasons why I really got burnt out a lot on the Hitman 2 quite quickly. And the reason why I like Miami, and it's the reason why I like the bank, but I hate maps like Haven Island because of all this sheer hugeness of it. But the targets are so far apart. I mean, you could argue that Sapienza is a huge map as well, but both targets are in the same area. It's all in the same side of the map. So you've got all the rest of the map to use for contracts or bonus missions if you like. But yeah, with Hitman 3, it's not like that. It's more what's the word? Focused, I should say, and it's more easier to digest through all of it because of the fact that it's just all, there's a lot more verticality than it was before, but it's all more focused and more in one central area. It's hard for me to actually explain what I'm talking about, but yeah, these maps are still big, but big in a way that's more vertical than they are spread out. So it's a lot more easier to digest than it was before. The shortcuts are a really good addition to the game, I think. At the start, when I was actually playing through this, I didn't really notice the shortcuts, but when you actually unlock them, they take you to areas where gives you some ideas of how other routes into these certain areas. For example, in Dubai, when you can access the ladder from the maintenance room all the way up to the roof where he's playing golf. So there's a lot of areas where you can get through a lot faster. I just like that aspect of all the shortcuts, and I like the persistent as well, because, say for example, another one in Berlin, like at the entrance, if you want to bring along a gun, you have to get through the frisk zone, but if you've unlocked the shortcut that's just behind the desk, then you can just go out from the front door and go around, and then there you are, you're done. But yeah, another thing I like about this is the fact that all the targets in the game, if I'm remembering correctly, you can trigger all of them to move into an area where you want them to be, without actually getting close to them. What I actually mean by that is, for example, if you think of Paris, for example, when you got the fireworks trigger remote and you go and trigger the fireworks remote, it triggers Novikov and Dahlia to move into an area that's more convenient for you. Therefore, you can do the terminal velocity challenge, you can push Dahlia on top of Novikov, and that takes care of that. It makes things a lot easier for you. In Sapienza, you've got the bell, the dinner bell. You've got the observatory thing. That will all trigger, Caruso to actually move into the areas that you want him to. Same with Francesca with the mobile phone with the golfer in that, or triggering the virus that brings it down into the lab. There's always ways to make them move, and I think a lot of people overlook that fact, and I think it's a really cool idea, and I think all of these maps have that same general idea, and I really like that. So yeah, for example, like Chongqing, you can bring both targets together for that, and it's just a really nice way of taking care of that, of basically a big map that does describe a map like I mentioned before, but how vast it is and how targets are so far apart. The fact that you can bring them together is what makes the map so much more easier, in my opinion, to digest than the other maps are. Another good thing I like about these maps as well is, like, for example, in Dartmoor, you have a second objective, but you can do them in 2 different kind of ways. You can sneak into the building and go and get it yourself, or you can pursue this other way of getting the objectives. There's always an option there for which one you want to do. And I'm not going to spoil exactly what you have to do, but yeah, I like that there's 2 options for that rather than just the one, because obviously we only have one target. So
I just hope you know what you're
there's
doing,
that.
47.
Also in Chongqing, where you've got a optional objective as well. So if you've completed it once, you can start in a different location, and you don't have to complete that final objective. It's now completely optional, which I really like. Which is something they should adapt for the other maps in the Legacy ones as well. For example, the clues in Whittleton Creek. People don't like getting that. Like, people like the map, people like having to take out both targets, but they don't like having to search for the clues every single time. It really, really lets that map down. And it's the reason why Whittleton Creek for me is not higher on my map tier list. So if they made that optional, because they've made some changes to all maps before, like Colorado, there were previously only one exit, but now there's like multiple exits you can take now if you've already played it once, and they should adopt that more onto the older maps as well, which is what I really like. Like for example in Mumbai as well, if you highlight the Maelstrom, I think it will make it a lot better. Next thing I want to mention as well is Berlin. Berlin is a very, very unique idea. It's one of the most unique missions in the series. It's probably one of the best missions in the entire series as well. You've got 5 targets, and the whole gimmick behind it is that you have 10 people on the map, or 11 if you start at the default location. You can take out any 5 targets and get Silent Assassin, which is what I really like about it. You can pick your route, you can choose whichever 5 targets you want to. It's a very nice change of pace, and it's a really good idea, I think. And it makes the map very, very replayable, if that's the case. Yeah, very, very, very replayable. It's easy for me to say. But yeah, you got 10 targets or 11 targets. Any 5 you want, any route you want. It leads to so many more options as well. And again, it has that thing where it's more condensed. There's several layers to it, but it's still small it feels smaller than it actually is. But overall, it's just a great idea, I think. It's one of my favourite, if not my favourite for Hitman 3 overall. I'm not completely sure on which exactly is my favourite yet. Maybe it possibly is Berlin, because I don't get bored of playing that map at all. The next thing I want to mention as well is that how good the atmosphere is now. Like, you're just watching this screen at the background right now with nothing on the screen, and all you can hear in the background is birds chirping away, the wind, and seeing the beautiful Dartmoor Manor in the background with the really nice clouds that they've done, the really nice decent skybox they've done. It's just a really, really gorgeous game to look at, and I just really enjoy being more immersed into this. If you just do this, you go to Dartmoor, and you just stand here and look in the background in the distance, and just sit there and watch for 10 minutes, and just take it all in, and how real it seems, how good it looks, and how real it feels. It's just one of them really cool maps. Chongqing is another one as well. It's so aesthetically beautiful with the rain and the lights, the neon lights. It's just there's just something about it that just makes it so much better. And I just really like that aspect. They're getting really good at doing that kind of thing, and that brings me to another point about the music as well. The music is it's great, especially in Dartmoor at the end, when the music is building up, and then you go into the rating screen at the end. I really like that. I really like it. It gets you like pumped for the missions. But the music always tends to be quite good, and I think it's been overlooked a lot in the Hitman series overall, because people have always pined for Jesper Kid. But even as great as Jesper Kid is, I really like Niels by Neeson's take on the Hitman series. I think it's been really, really good. I'm probably in the minority with that, but I really do appreciate all the music he's done. I think it's been fantastic, especially in Hitman 3. I think Hitman 3, especially out of all 3 of them, has been particularly good. And what I've often found myself doing before in the previous 2 games is turning the music off, because I found it distracting and annoying, because I've been hearing it a lot. But with Hitman 3, I just don't feel that way. I just like leaving it on now. Like, if you've noticed my recent videos, I haven't really been adding my own music anymore. I've been using the in-game music in the background, because it's just so good. I really like it. My opinion might change in a few months, I don't know, but for right now, it feels really, really good. And the next thing on my list is the last mission. The last mission was a good change of pace because of how different it was compared to the other previous 19 missions that we've had in the series, the 19 maps I should say in the series, and this one went in a completely different direction. in terms of how it's already built over the past 5 years it's been out for the new Hitman series, Ward of Assassination. And they went with a linear design, and I really do like that change of pace. I really did like it, and it's really nice to play through it a couple of times. But the one thing I always think that is going to let it down is the replayability aspect of it. I think because of its linear design, it makes replayability very minimal, and I think that's what's going to let it down overall. I'm interested to see if they're ever going to do any elusive targets for it. It would be pretty difficult, I think, but not impossible. But I'll be interested to see what they do with that map in the future, if they do anything with it. But yeah, I like it. I think a lot more games should adopt more train missions, because it always works. Splinter Cell comes to mind, Pandora Tomorrow, one of the best missions in the game, and I really do appreciate that kind of thing. And yeah, I really like the way they've changed things up, and they wasn't scared to do that. They had the balls to actually do something different, and I really do appreciate that. And I did enjoy it, but it's just not the sort of map I would keep going back to because of its linear design. But that's not a bad thing. It's just that it's just different, and that's just not how this series has been built so far. So now I've got all the positive stuff out of the way, I can go into some of the more negative aspects about it, but not trying to be too harsh on everything. So first thing I want to mention is the menus. The menus over the series of the Hitman 1, 2 and 3, it's become more and more convoluted, and I don't really understand why they haven't changed it over the course of the past 5 years, despite people complaining about it. And I think it's just, look, I'll show you. You've just got way too many menus to scroll along, more than you actually think you have. And you've got so many sub-menus, and if you want to get to some sort of places, it takes about 3 or 4 clicks to get to where you want to go. There's so many sub-menus within sub-menus, and I don't understand why they haven't gone with a vertical kind of menu rather than a horizontal way. The more and more missions they add into the game, the more and more ridiculous it got. And with Hitman 3 now, with all the Hitman 1 and 2 stuff ported into the game, it looks ridiculous. And the fact that you've got, 21 things now to scroll across the screen, plus the sniper assassin things, plus the side missions. And it's nice that they've got the side missions now in its own separate menu, because people would not even realise that it's even in the game. Because if you go to a destination, like Sapienza for example, and you've got all the shit that's on the screen with all the escalations and stuff like that, people wouldn't even scroll past that far to even realise that there is bonus missions in the game. And a lot of people have actually missed these bonus missions just because they couldn't even find it. It's just one of the things that I really wish they improved, and unfortunately they have kept the same system throughout all 3 of the 3 games. And now with more content that's going to be put in every single month, it's only going to get worse. And also they're obviously going to add an elusive target tab to it, and like I said, it's only going to get worse from here on out from that. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit disappointed that they didn't change that, but that's just one of the aspects that I didn't like about the game. Moving on to another point as well is not being able to shut up the handlers, who often would even talk over the dialogue, especially in Dartmoor, which is a perfect example is when you're actually investigating through the murder mystery, and you want to interrogate Emma, and while you're talking to her and trying to listen to what she's saying, Diana is talking over her, and it just spoils the whole thing. Also, talking of spoilers, Diana would spoil the entire mystery overall for you. So if you are interested in Dartmoor, and you are interested in murder mysteries, and you thought this was a really cool idea, it is. It's great. I really like the whole investigation. I really like the whole clue situation. But I wish Diana would shut the hell up so we could have figured it out for ourselves. I don't know why they had to do that, and I really dislike it. And I'm going to show you the point I'm talking about with Diana talking over dialogue.
This is a table
Broken lab
showing
equipment.
lethal dosages.
It looks
for the
like it was
poison
recently
used to
used,
kill
though.
Zachary.
Something is circled 47.
8 o'clock. Anything else you want to know?
You have uncovered
How
enough
did you feel
evidence to
about
tell
Zachary?
Madame
Might
Carlyle
as well
that
be
Emma
honest.
is the
His
murderer.
presence was always
Quite the
awkward.
detective, 47.
Now, how do you have a
I'm
meaningful
impressed.
conversation with a man who only cares about plants?
The next thing I want to mention is, despite how good the game actually looks, the lighting in particular is actually very, very noticeable, and I don't think it's very good. When you come up the stairs right here, it's the first thing you notice in Dubai is just a huge sun coming through and shining through your face. The funny thing is, this shows up on the promo pictures as well for the mission itself on the main menus. Another thing I've noticed as well is the auto exposure, or whatever they put into the game. Look at this. This is Mendoza when you start at the chapel. The shrine thing, whatever it's called. I can't remember now. But yeah, just by just rotating the camera like this, you can see how bright it is outside, and it will automatically adjust when you look in that direction. And everything in the room, if you're outside and it's really bright, when you look into the room, it's going to be really, really dark. A lot more games are bringing this into their games, and I'm not completely sure why, because it doesn't make the game look particularly that good. Even when you just zoom in with your camera here, you can see how bright everything looks. It's almost turns completely black and white, almost, because it's that overexposed. It's just not necessary. I just don't think it makes overall the maps look very, very nice to look at, really. I mean, the maps in particular look great, especially Mendoza, but when it comes to lighting, it's just not good. And this is exactly the same on the old Legacy maps as well. This is just in Sapienza itself, when you've got too much exposure going in. As soon as you enter the field lab, you get a huge shining light that's coming, blinding light that's just coming from the cave entrance. It just wasn't like that in Hitman 1. And it was worse in Hitman 2, and it's just got even worse now in Hitman 3. It just looks like there's like a nuclear reactor over there with how much it glows like that. It's just, I don't know. Another example here is Marrakesh, when you trying to exit the consulate garage. It's blinding light that comes out. It shouldn't feel like I'm walking into the sun. And when you're looking from the outdoors, it's really, really dark. Then it takes a second for all the light to adjust. I just wish there was an option to remove that, because the lighting looked so much better in Hitman 1, and they've gone and changed this. Paris is another example of how dark the map can look as well. I've noticed here at the very start, you can't really even see the carpet. It used to be quite a rich red, but now it's barely visible. Even with the lights on in this room, it's still very dark. And this is as good as it's going to look as well. This is in HDR. So even with HDR, it doesn't look that great. But when you turn it off, it looks worse. So the best you can make this game look is with HDR on. And this is with the lights off. Look how dark the carpet is. I remember this room being so much more brighter back in Hitman 1 and 2. This is another example of how dark this game can actually be. I mean, look, this is the first area in Paris. And as good as all the screen space reflections are on the floor, the lighting is just so dark. It just takes out a lot of how pretty the map can actually look. I mean, I don't know what this effect is all about, but yeah. Overall, this room is just so dark. This is a recurring theme throughout all the maps as well. It's not just this particular map, it's throughout most of them. And I really wish they would change some of the lighting aspects, especially for these old maps, because the new lighting system doesn't really work for the older maps, because it just wasn't designed that way. And I just really wish it went back to how it looked when it first came out in Hitman Season 1. They changed the lighting a little bit when the bonus missions came out, and that was perfect for me. But this new change, this auto exposure thing, is not a good idea in my opinion. You don't notice it on Hitman 3 maps as much because you don't really have that much bright maps. You've got Mendoza and you've got the first map, Dubai, is where you really notice it, but everything else is like dark maps. So you're not going to notice it. The game can look its absolute best in Chongqing, for example. And that's probably why they added it for all the neon lighting to make it look really, really nice. The little foggy bloom effect that you have off all the lights and stuff like that, what makes the game look good. But when it comes to these situations, it's not particularly good in my opinion. The next thing I want to mention on my list as well is the game is still always online, and if you do go offline, you will have minimal access to pretty much anything. So you can't have access to the featured contracts, you can't have access to escalations, you can't have access to elusive targets, you can't complete any challenges, and also you can't even have a rating at the end of the mission. It makes the game pretty much pointless to play when it's offline. And when the game first came out, inevitably there was going to have server problems, which they did. Multiple people couldn't even connect for 2 or 3 even days or even a week. I had so many complaints about it. People saying that they couldn't connect or play the game. It's just, I don't think, after 5 years of this system being in place and all the complaints that people had, and they haven't changed it yet, I really think that's a really, really bad move. I really think that they should have changed it and come up with something that's going to happen in the future, because what's going to happen in 5-10 years down the line? Are they still going to be supporting these servers? And if they're not, is anyone even going to be playing the game in 5 to 10 years time? Because at the end of the day, without these servers, how is anyone going to be able to play this game to its full potential? Yeah, elusive targets aren't going to be around, but featured contracts and player contracts, you can't even make player contracts in offline mode, but you can't pretty much do anything. You can play the missions, but you can't do anything else that the game has to offer, so offline mode is just not a fun experience, and I don't think anyone will play it if there's no servers online. So are they going to keep these servers online forever? I very much doubt it, and I really think they should change that, because it's just something that really needs to be done, in my opinion. Another thing that comes to it as well is the PC fiasco of not having to be able to transfer Hitman 1 and 2 from day one through on PC. So over the course of the year or so, they kept saying that if you own Hitman 1 and Hitman 2, you'll be able to import those missions over into Hitman 3. But on PC, about a week before release, they went and changed that and said that you would have to repurchase Hitman 1 and Hitman 2 as access passes to get access to these missions on PC, which is not a very good idea, but I don't know what it was a problem with. I don't know if it was all to do with Warner Brothers, or I don't know whether it was to do with Steam. I'm not completely sure how it all works, but after that, they did assure everybody by the end of February that they will be able to import their Hitman 1, Hitman 2, and all that stuff into Hitman 3. And for the first 10 days of release, you'll be able to get Hitman 1 for free on the Epic Games Store, but it still wasn't enough to sweeten that sour taste in everyone's mouth. But a lot of players on PC in particular as well haven't been able to actually access to Hitman 1 or Hitman 2 content that they've already paid for in the past, because they don't want to pay for it again. So they've had to patiently wait until the end of February, hopefully, when they can import all this stuff and be able to play Hitman 1 and 2 missions in there. I'm lucky enough to not have these problems on PS5 because I'm a console player, but for all the unfortunate players that are on PC, they would have to repurchase Hitman 1 and 2, even if they already own it. And that is until, obviously, that's fixed at the end of February. Moving on to the next part is the removal of the electrocution phone. And this is a baffling one, because I think only a small amount of people complained about this removal of the electrocution phone, and I don't think it was warranted to be completely deleted from the game. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. The only thing I can think of is they didn't want people to cheese the elusive targets, but at the end of the day, if you didn't timegate the elusive targets and hide unlockables behind these elusive targets, then people wouldn't even be bothering doing that. When it comes to my elusive target guides, I used to do 3 different methods: one with equipment, one without equipment, and one with the electrocution phone, because it's always there for a free kill. And I'm guessing the developers didn't like the idea of getting a free kill for elusive targets. But at the end of the day, like I said, if you didn't hide rewards and timegate all these elusive targets, then it wouldn't be a problem. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. But I just don't like how they nerf things that people find useful. They did it with Season 1 with the breaching charges. Everyone loved the breaching charges. And all of a sudden, in Hitman 2, they took one away. Why? Who knows? I'm not completely sure, but that made the breaching charge completely useless, really. Not entirely useless, but it was very least effective because you only had one compared to 2 that you had before, which made it a lot more easier for distractions and all that kind of stuff. Another thing that they nerfed as well was fire extinguishers. I agree with this one because it was cheesy, but again, it's just one of the things that people found as an optional piece of fun, and they made fire extinguishers non-lethal in Hitman 2. But propane tanks are still lethal, so again, it's a bit of a mystery why you changed the fire extinguisher but you didn't change the propane tank. It's just a bit of a mystery to me. Another thing they changed as well is the Jaeger 7 Lancer. That used to be able to shoot through, I think, 1 or 2 walls, and then people was trying to find new routes for it and speed running missions like Bangkok. And then after a while they patched it so it couldn't shoot through walls anymore, and yeah, it just, again, it spoils people's fun. I don't understand why they have to remove or nerf things that are actually people finding useful, because there's a lot of items in this game that aren't useful at all. And yet all that stuff's in the game, and they haven't been given a buff, so I'm not completely sure why they keep doing this. And speaking of unlockables, the unlockables for Hitman 3 are they're by far the worst in the series, in my opinion. If you're a new player, everything in this game is obviously going to be new, and everything is going to be useful to you. But when it comes to returning players, everything that you unlock is just not something that you want, because everything you unlock is something you've already got, or some variation of that unlock. So we don't need 30 sniper rifles, we don't need 5 different fiber wires, we don't need 4 different variants of coins. We don't need 5 syringes. There's no need for all this stuff. It's just bloat, and it makes the inventory screen even worse than it already looks, because there's just so many items that, despite some of them being useful, most of them, about 80 or 90% of the items in there, are not useful at all. When you first go into a mission or an escalation, the 2 items that I always use is the coins and lockpick, because it's the only 2 items I really feel that are most useful in the entire game. Only when you want to replay something, or you feel like the syringe is going to become more helpful to you, or a lethal poison vial, or an emetic, or something like that, they're the only times I'll swap those items out. But everything else is just bloat, because why would I need a crystal ball that breaks when it's just basically a brick? Why would I want to waste a whole inventory slot on a brick? It's just no point. Then you've got other items like knives. Who uses knives these days? You got other things like you got things like fish and stuff like that. You got goofy items, which I don't like. I just like to have more seriously focused gadgets that would be useful in this game. I mean, you got good ideas like the flash grenade. The flash grenade would be actually useful if it had a longer effect than 5 seconds. If it had a 10-second window rather than 5 seconds, I think it would be a very useful item, and you could come up with a lot of interesting ways of getting your targets with the flash items. But you can't. 5 seconds is nothing. You can't even flash bang someone and quickly run up to them and syringe them, because you don't have enough time. You can't run up to an enemy, flash them and knock them out, because you don't have enough time. The concussion grenades, they see each other's bodies get knocked out, so it ruins your silent assassins, so concussions out of it as well. These items have potential to be really good and cool, but they aren't very good and balanced. I feel like if they give these things a little bit of a tweak and increase the flash time and made it so that when you knock someone out with a concussion grenade, that the bodies aren't found as they're being knocked out, then that would be great. It would be making them a lot more useful. And this goes for a lot of items that you can make a lot better as well. But that's just my opinion overall. In conclusion to this whole entire thing, I know it's been majorly more negative than have been positive, but these are the things that I've pointed out that I wanted to make everyone aware of. But overall, I really do enjoy the game. I still play it a lot. I still really enjoy it. I still think it's a lot of fun, and I think I definitely would recommend playing it if you haven't already. But if you've dabbled around in the training mission and the free missions that you've had in the past and stuff like that, and you've been on the fence about buying Hitman or not, I would definitely go and make the plunge to buy Hitman 3. I think it's a really good experience to play. And what I would say if you do play this game is just experiment with everything. Don't just follow the mission stories. Don't just follow the scripted kills and that. Just try and experiment with the game, play around with it, and see what works for you, because it is a sandbox game after all, and it really should be played that way rather than just judging it on, oh, there's only 6 maps and it's not long enough. We had loads of missions before in the past. It doesn't work that way, because these missions are sandboxes. They are massive, and they should be played so. So that's what I reckoned. But if I was to give this a rating, I would definitely say it's by far the best out of the 3 games. And there's no maps in this game that I don't dislike, and I can't say that for any other game in the series. So it's a massive thumbs up from me. If I was to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably go for an 8, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna go for an 8. It may change in the future, but we'll see about that. But that's just what I wanted to give for this game. I overall really think it's a really good game. I have a lot of fun playing it, and I really enjoy it. And I hope you do too. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments about all the stuff that I've said in this video. Hopefully it's not been too critical. I try to be constructive as possible. So I hope all the IOI devs that watch this don't hate me now, because I really, really do like the game. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. Hit the bell notification to be notified of all future videos and live streams. Consider supporting me on Patreon, or even becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button below, or clicking the link in the description. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.